Beast tried to kill me, call the cops. That's what my HOA president screamed after my German shepherd politely sat down and offered her a paw. She didn't know he was trained in search and rescue, or that he was seconds away from digging up the secret she buried right under my fence line. And me, I just stood there, wondering how a woman with a degree in Homeowners Association studies managed to mistake kindness for combat. Where are you watching from? Drop a comment? Rex, my German shepherd, wasn't bred for violence. He was bred to babysit toddlers, sniff out missing hikers, and cry during dog food commercials. But none of that mattered to Victoria Overly Fortified Morrison, the HOA president of Maple Ridge and self-appointed sheriff of sanity. The woman acted like she was running for governor of the suburbs, armed with a clipboard, a Bluetooth earpiece, and enough hairspray to weatherproof a cathedral. The moment she saw Rex sniffing near the old oak tree on my grandfather's ranch, she screeched, "Get that monster off my property!" Never mind that it wasn't her property. We were a good 50 feet outside the HOA zone, but Victoria treated imaginary borders the way conspiracy theorists treat Area 51, sacred, blurry, and protected by paranoia. Now, I tried being polite. I really did. I even said good morning and offered her some lemonade like this was still the America our grandparents believed in. But Victoria poked her acrylic fingernail into my chest like she was summoning HOA demons and shouted, "You'll regret bringing that beast here." Rex, meanwhile, yawned, stretched, and rolled onto his back like he was trying to join a yoga class. He even offered her his paw. That's when she shrieked, did a half-spin, and hollered into her phone. "He's attacking! 911! Emergency at the property line!" You'd have thought we were reenacting Jurassic Bark. Within 10 minutes, a patrol car rolled up, lights flashing, siren muted, because even the police knew Victoria well enough to keep it low drama. Officer Martinez stepped out, gave me a look that said, "Oh no, not HOA Barbie again," and then glanced at Rex, who by that point had belly flopped into a pile of wildflowers. Victoria, red-faced and breathing like she'd just run a 5K through a conspiracy theory, thrust her phone at him. "I have footage! This dog is a menace!" She hit play on a shaky video of Rex sniffing a squirrel and sitting down. Martinez blinked. "Ma'am, this video just shows your neighbor's dog sitting still while you yell at him," she snapped. "But look at the aura! He was thinking aggressively!" Martinez's left eyebrow twitched like it was trying to leave the room. Then came the real moment. As Officer Martinez turned to ask me a few questions, Rex wandered back to that same spot by the fence and started whining. Not the hungry whine, not the "where's my toy" whine. The Houston "we've got buried problems" whine. It was low, urgent, focused. He dug a few times, then backed up and sat, ears perked, tail still, like he'd just filed a report with the FBI. I knew that posture. I'd seen it when he found a missing kid's sock buried in mud 3 counties away. That's when I realized Rex hadn't come to the ranch for butterflies. He smelled something that didn't belong. Of course, Victoria was still flapping her arms and talking about community integrity and aggressive posture violations. I tuned her out because my dog, my brilliant, snoring, peanut butter-obsessed dog, had just told me something with his body language. Something was under that dirt. Something she didn't want found. But I stayed cool. I scratched behind his ear and said, "Good boy," because whatever was buried in that yard, it was coming up. And judging by the twitch in Victoria's left eye when she saw Rex pawing that dirt, it wasn't just soil he was unearthing. It was her whole plan. The loudest people often bury the darkest secrets. Sometimes it takes a quiet dog with muddy paws to dig up the truth. What do you think Rex found beneath that old oak tree? Because when I dug it up, everything changed. You'll want to hear what came next. HOA meetings are just middle school dances with more polyester and less rhythm, and nobody 2 steps harder than Eugenia Kravitz with a laser pointer and a personal vendetta. The woman entered the rec hall like she was storming the capital of common sense, clutching a flash drive like it held the secrets to immortality. The folding chairs squeaked under the weight of anticipation, and also the homemade chili from last week's potluck. I sat in the back with biscuit curled at my feet, completely unaware that he was about to be cast as the Labrador equivalent of Godzilla. The presentation was called The Canine Crisis Next Door, and the drama started at slide 1. A blurry photo of Biscuit mid-yawn, captioned, "Possible Threat to Vocalization." Slide 2 showed a chewed tennis ball. Slide 3, a graphic titled Aggression by the Numbers, which, I kid you not, featured a pie chart labeled Dog Size versus HOA Tension. Eugenia paced dramatically, pausing only to adjust her blouse, which was straining like her credibility. "We must protect our community," she declared, "from unregulated canines that erode peace." I glanced at Biscuit, who was snoring so loudly it sounded like a distant leaf blower. If anyone was eroding peace, it was his nasal passages. Then she got to the proposal. Dogs over 20 pounds would now require a permit of peaceful presence, issued quarterly by the HOA board and reviewed after any barking incident or vibe disruption. The audience murmured. A man in the second row whispered, "What's a vibe disruption?" And his wife replied, "Your socks with sandals, probably?" Eugenia clicked to a new slide, an enlarged satellite map showing HOA boundaries. And there, in red, was my property, with a hand-drawn arrow pointing to it labeled Canine Threat Zone. That was my tipping point. I stood up calmly, which already made me the loudest voice in the room, and asked if I might read something aloud. Eugenia waved her hand dismissively, like I was a telemarketer interrupting her bubble bath. But I didn't need her permission. I pulled out the HOA charter, the one my late husband helped draft when the bylaws were created. According to Section 4, Paragraph A, I said, the HOA jurisdiction ends exactly 60 feet before my ranch begins, which means this threat zone you've highlighted is technically the freedom zone. A few folks chuckled. Eugenia froze like a robot waiting for a firmware update. Then, with the grace of a cat who just knocked over a lamp and pretended it was art, she cleared her throat and said, "This isn't about borders, it's about vibes." That was when the meeting turned. One neighbor let out a snort laugh that echoed like a starter pistol. Another whispered, "Someone tell her this ain't Hogwarts." I sat back down and gave Biscuit a biscuit. He blinked once and resumed his nap, completely unaware that he had just accidentally liberated a community from canine tyranny. Eugenia clicked one more slide, this one a spreadsheet titled Projected Noise Pollution by Breed. But by then the audience was more interested in the vending machine options than her apocalyptic dog charts. She slammed her laptop closed and muttered, "I'll handle this personally." But what no one noticed, except maybe Biscuit, was that during the presentation, Eugenia's son, Troy, had slipped out the side door, and 2 hours later, Biscuit would drag me back to that same rosebush behind the clubhouse and start digging like he smelled something worth testifying about. That night, under the pale glow of a motion light, I saw Troy hauling 2 suspiciously heavy boxes into a landscaping shed marked tool storage only, but this wasn't landscaping, and whatever was buried beneath those rose bushes wasn't fertilizer. When someone loses control of the rule book, they start writing in invisible ink and calling it regulation. What was Biscuit sniffing under those HOA roses? And why was Troy sneaking around with boxes that thudded like secrets? Stick around, you're going to want to see what gets dug up next. If you're going to fake a dog attack, at least don't use ketchup packets from Chick-fil-A. Eugenia Morrison apparently missed that day in villain school. Sunday morning, I woke up to a flurry of HOA notifications, each one more unhinged than the last. The headline post featured her cat, Lord Sprinkle. Yes, that's his government name, looking like he'd barely survived a Tarantino film. There he was, crouched beside a bush, slathered in what could only be described as spicy regret and dollar men condiments. The caption? Tragic attack by vicious animal. Lord Sprinkle barely survived. I zoomed in. That wasn't blood. That was sriracha ketchup. Bold move, considering the HOA Facebook page had a recipe thread 2 posts down that used the exact same sauce. The next photo featured a clump of golden dog fur dramatically placed near the cat's neck, like Biscuit had shaved himself in preparation for battle. Funny thing is, I recognized that fur. It was mine, not metaphorically, literally, from the communal dryer in our laundry barn. Biscuit sheds like a cotton candy machine in a wind tunnel, and apparently Eugenia decided to harvest the evidence like she was foraging for lies. Now, if this were a one-woman Oscar campaign, I might have let it slide, but no. Eugenia was calling for Biscuit to be quarantined and evaluated for psychotic behavior. She even requested an emergency HOA vote to classify Labradors as potentially unstable livestock. I didn't say anything at first. I just uploaded the footage from my wildlife camera, a 1080p crystal-clear video of Eugenia whispering, "Sorry, baby, Mommy just needs 5 more shots," while squirting ketchup onto Lord Sprinkle like he was a barbecue side dish. She even fluffed his tail afterward. "Hold still, sweetie. This is for the community's safety." The next day, during the official pet safety inspection, Biscuit and I walked past the crime scene. A few neighbors were gathered, whispering like they were watching a scandalous soap opera, but still pretending they were there for recycling bins. Biscuit sniffed the ketchup bush, tilted his head, looked directly at Eugenia, and lifted his leg, right there on her handmade puddle of deception. It was like nature herself had ruled on the matter. Eugenia gasped so hard I thought her soul might leave through her ears. "That's tampering with evidence," she screamed. "He's obstructing justice." I looked at her dead in the eye and said, "Ma'am, he's a Labrador, not a litigator." She stormed off, vowing to report us to the Neighborhood Ethics Committee. I asked if that was the same committee that let her use condiments as crime props. The neighbors laughed hard. One lady actually snorted and had to sit down on the curb. The myth of the mauling was unraveling faster than a discount sweater in a leaf blower. Eugenia tried to post a rebuttal video, but it backfired when the audio picked up her whispering, "Don't eat it yet, Sprinkle, we need a few more shots of distress." But amid the humor, Biscuit hadn't forgotten the boxes. Every night he returned to the bushes near the clubhouse, ears sharp, nose twitching like a lie detector, and last night I caught Troy, the HOA prince himself, hauling another taped-up box into that same shed. It thudded when it hit the floor. Not the sound of tools, the sound of something heavier, maybe paperwork, maybe something worse. Biscuit was practically vibrating, nose to the ground like a bloodhound on a mission. A lie might survive Facebook, but it won't survive fur, footage, and a well-timed bathroom break. What do you think Eugenia's hiding in those mystery boxes? And what development deal did Biscuit just sniff out? Stick around, the next dig might hit pay dirt. They called it environmental beautification. It was a money laundering scheme dressed as a rose garden. And leave it to Biscuit to unearth the truth while chasing a squirrel he probably owed money. It started with one of his usual turbo sniffs, a full nose-to-ground sweep like a TSA agent with a grudge, right behind my back fence. Then came the pause, the digging, the dirt flying like a cartoon tornado, until I heard a sharp clink. That's when I saw it. The corner of a rusted metal case poking out like buried guilt. I pulled it free, hands shaking just a little. Not from fear, but from the eerie déjà vu of trouble dressed in leather handles. Inside? A set of glossy brochures, architectural blueprints, and one golden ticket of corruption. Clearwater Horizon Estates, a vision for tomorrow. Tomorrow apparently included bulldozing my pasture, pouring asphalt over my wildflowers, and stuffing 40 luxury units where Biscuit currently does his business. But the real kicker? Eugenia's signature on a commission agreement worth $2,700,000, 0 cents. Her son Troy had been burying these contracts under the assumption that the HOA owned that strip of land. Joke's on them. This molehill? I stormed back inside and went straight to the safe where I kept the stuff too precious for daylight. My husband's deed to the ranch. Handwritten, notarized, yellowed like antique parchment, and legally beautiful. It clearly showed that not only was our property outside the HOA's authority, it extended 20 feet into what Eugenia had already mapped as her scenic boulevard entrance. That paved road of dreams? I would have to bulldoze my chicken coop first. I laughed so hard I nearly pulled a muscle. I snapped photos, scanned the deed, and emailed a copy to my lawyer, whose reply was just one line. Whatever you do, don't sell. Eugenia naturally knew none of this yet. She was still busy Instagramming close-ups of Lord Sprinkle's fake injuries and printing T-shirts that read, "Hey-O strong." I considered mailing her a copy of the deed in a glitter bomb, but I'm trying to cut back on passive-aggressive crafting. Still, I knew it wouldn't be long before she sniffed out that her paradise was built on someone else's land. And when she did, she'd explode like a rice cooker left on rage. I was sipping tea on the porch when I heard the mailbox clang and found a note inside. Just one line typed in all caps. Check her garage freezer. No signature, no return address, just vague serial killer energy. Biscuit sniffed it and sneezed twice. I don't know what was more unnerving, the note or the fact that Biscuit had now become my emotional support detective. I looked across the field at Eugenia's house. Garage closed, curtains drawn, but Troy's car was gone, the same one I'd seen near the shed last night. I knew I'd stumbled into something deeper than HOA nonsense, and now I had a commission scheme, a forged development plan, and a mystery freezer hanging over my property line like a piñata of paranoia. Sometimes all it takes to unravel a multi-million-dollar scam is a loyal dog, an old deed, and a developer who forgets to check where the property line ends and karma begins. What do you think is in Eugenia's garage freezer? And what happens when she realizes the land she planned to sell is legally mine? Stick around, because this potluck of chaos is about to boil over. Never trust a woman who alphabetizes her threats and refrigerates her alibis. Carlton Morrison, husband of HOA tyrant Eugenia, proved that truth with a wine-stained shirt and a conscience so heavy it could crack granite. He showed up on my porch just after sundown, clutching a box of off-brand Merlot and looking like a washed-up soap opera star trying to land one last redemption arc. "I brought apology juice," he slurred. Before collapsing into my wicker chair like it owed him child support, Biscuit raised an eyebrow and shuffled over to supervise. Carlton poured himself a mug of wine, yes, a mug, and began to spill like a toddler with a full juice box and no spatial awareness. "She's in over her head, Madeline," he whispered. "The grants, the permits, the landscaping fund, all fake." Apparently, Eugenia had been funneling HOA money into sustainability initiatives, which included solar mulch and community algae testing, both of which were code for "I lost big on crypto and now we owe people with neck tattoos and quiet cars." The so-called beautification project was just a Ponzi scheme with begonias. Carlton confessed to burying 2 locked document boxes on my side of the fence because she said no one would believe a widow with a Labrador. I didn't interrupt, I just leaned slightly and tapped the armrest of the wicker chair right where I'd hidden one of my wildlife cameras, activated and recording the whole conversation. Carlton babbled on about ghost investors and property-flipping scams, pausing only to gulp wine and weep into Biscuit's fur. The dog endured it like a therapist who didn't ask for this job. Carlton ended his confession with the phrase, "And then she said, if I don't frame the dog, they'll break our knees in alphabetical order." It was absurd. It was tragic. It was legally golden. And right on cue, chaos arrived, like it was late for brunch. Eugenia called 911, claiming the monster threw a brick through my window, which, based on tone alone, could have meant Biscuit or me, or perhaps a rogue raccoon. The cops showed up within 15 minutes, full sirens, high beams, and one officer who looked like he had better places to be, like literally anywhere else. They knocked on my door while Biscuit lay under his heated blanket, snoring, with an actual spoon in his mouth. He'd fallen asleep during peanut butter night. Officer Jenkins took one look at him, blinked, and muttered, "This can't be real life." They inspected the alleged crime scene. A brick, lightly chipped, rested on a velvet pillow on Eugenia's kitchen floor like it was auditioning for a Broadway revival of Victimhood, the musical. "This brick is evidence," she barked. "The beast did it with his jaw." She pointed toward Biscuit, who had now begun licking the spoon in his sleep. Officer Jenkins turned to me and whispered, Has your dog shown any interest in medieval siege weaponry lately? I told him we'd cut back since the HOA banned trebuchets. The other cop laughed. Eugenia did not. I handed them the footage from my camera, the one showing Carlton sobbing about buried evidence in Eugenia's crypto cover-up. They took it without comment, but Officer Jenkins gave me a slight nod that said, "This is getting federal." As the squad car pulled away, I looked at my porch table. A fruit basket had appeared. No note, just a tag that read, "Testify and live." Carlton stared at it for 5 full seconds and said, "I think I just peed a little." Biscuit sniffed the basket and growled. His serious growl, not the someone dropped a chip one. If someone starts blaming your dog for property damage, it's not about your dog. It's about their house of lies crumbling faster than their marriage. Why is Eugenia suddenly wearing a neck brace in her HOA livestream? And who exactly sent Carlton that fruit basket with a passive-aggressive survival tip? Something's coming, and it smells like panic wrapped in fruit leather. Stick around. This neighborhood scandal's just getting ripe. Never underestimate the power of a retired substitute teacher with a projector and free Wi-Fi. That's how the HOA's emergency meeting turned into a full-blown courtroom drama, with Thompson, our resident robe-wearing widower and part-time birdwatcher, acting as both MC and moral compass. Eugenia strutted in like she was auditioning for a Bravo reunion special, wearing sunglasses indoors, a neck brace wrapped tighter than her legal arguments, and heels that could puncture drywall. She didn't even sit. She perched like an endangered species of narcissist, waiting to deliver her closing argument before the jury even heard the case. I walked up to the front of the rec hall with Biscuit at my side and plugged in my laptop like I was defusing a bomb. "I'd like to present a short educational video," I said, sweet as saccharin. The lights dimmed. The first image was Lord Sprinkle, blinking slowly on Eugenia's patio, followed by a title card that read, "Lies, Fur, and Felonies, the Eugenia Kravitz Story." The room chuckled. The first clip showed Eugenia dabbing sriracha ketchup onto her cat while whispering, "Good boy," just one more close-up. Then came her fake 911 call accusing Biscuit of weaponizing a brick. By the time we hit the footage of Carlton sobbing into Biscuit's fur and confessing to financial fraud, people weren't just murmuring, they were howling. One guy in the back yelled, "This is better than Netflix." The best part? A clip slowed down for dramatic effect, where Lord Sprinkle blinked 3 times. Morse code? Maybe. Or maybe even the cat was over the drama. Eugenia's face cycled through the stages of grief, rage, and fainting goat. "This is a smear campaign," she shrieked. "Ma'am, that's my cat's private medical moment." She lunged toward the laptop like a toddler diving for birthday cake, but Biscuit, bless him, stepped right in front of her with the grace of a furry security guard. He didn't growl. He didn't move. He just stared at her with the full weight of doggy judgment. Eugenia froze. "Get that beast away from me," she snapped. "He's a trained assailant." Carlton stood up slowly in the back, swaying like a man trying to outrun guilt. "She made me fake a break-in," he shouted, voice cracking like a dropped snow globe. "She said the HOA needed a villain." The room exploded. One woman screamed, "Our dues paid for this." Another yelled, "You took my bird bath refund." Someone started chanting, "Impeach, impeach." Thompson stepped up with his gavel, which was actually a turkey baster he brought just in case, and declared, "All in favor of removing the queen of ketchup crime, say aye." A thunderous wave of aye hit the walls. Eugenia looked like she'd swallowed a beehive and was now negotiating with the queen. She adjusted her neck brace, blinked through her sunglasses, and muttered, "This isn't over. I still know things. Dangerous things. Justice doesn't always bark or bite. Sometimes it just wags its tail and drops a projector on your HOA reign. What do you think Eugenia does when she finds out she's actually being audited next? And why did the IRS, just like Madeline's video post? This mess is about to get government-grade spicy. Stick around, she's cooked, but we're not done roasting. The higher the hair, the closer to indictment, and Eugenia's hair looked like it had been built on a scaffolding of lies, duct tape, and industrial-grade delusion. Her final Hail Mary? A casual jog past my ranch, complete with ankle weights, a body cam, and a leash she dramatically dragged behind her like she was ghost-walking an invisible wolf. Suddenly she flopped to the ground like a tuna dropped from a balcony and screamed, "He bit me!" The leash, of course, was covered in glitter, because even her crimes needed sparkle. By dinner, the clip was already making the rounds on HOA TikTok. Unfortunately for Eugenia, local Channel 8 picked it up and ran the headline, "Dog Mauls Woman's Hope for Peaceful Jog." They even added slow-mo. What the viewers didn't see until the unedited version leaked was Biscuit 200 feet away on my porch the entire time, mid-nap, snoring into a pool of his own drool like a war veteran finally at rest. That footage, paired with my ring cam, became Exhibit A. Eugenia, meanwhile, posted a selfie from the ER wearing an inflatable ankle cast and sipping cucumber water. Healing from trauma, thoughts and prayers, appreciated, Biscuit bit me. Enter the FBI. 3 black SUVs rolled up the next morning like the IRS had finally subscribed to neighborhood drama. Turns out that sustainability grant Eugenia used as a crypto cover-up was being funneled through a shell company called Palmist Wellness, Inc., a dog yoga and tapas fusion business that allegedly hosted mindful obedience retreats in exchange for untraceable payments. The IRS flagged it when someone tried to write off $14,000, 0 cents in leash crystals. Eugenia's HOA emails had been subpoenaed weeks ago. All that was left now was the perp walk, and boy did she deliver. Federal marshals escorted her out in fuzzy handcuffs, her idea apparently to appear less threatening. As she stumbled across the driveway in socks and a trench coat, yelling, "This is a setup! I demand trial by HOA jury!" Biscuit trotted forward, dropped the glitter leash at her feet, and sat like a marble statue of truth. The crowd, which included most of the neighborhood and a mariachi band someone had hired for ambiance, erupted into applause. Someone threw a biscuit. Biscuit caught it midair and bowed. Eugenia tripped on her trench hem and shouted, "Ma'am, stop your dog from humiliating me publicly." Carlton, standing in the garage with a cup of chamomile tea and a travel agent brochure, simply sighed, "She always did want a destination trial." He later handed over boxes of HOA documents, secret crypto passwords, and a monogrammed binder titled, "If Things Go South, Blame the Dog." The FBI took everything. Even Lord Sprinkle was placed under witness protection, though rumor had it he was seen pawing through a can of tuna in Arizona. Biscuit got a framed certificate from the city council for heroic exposure of Hawaii fraud and general good boy conduct. The truth doesn't need a press release or a PR team. It just needs a snoring Labrador, a couple of federal agents, and one very incriminating glitter leash. What's still hiding in Eugenia's infamous garage freezer? And did she really try to ship herself to Aruba in a box labeled emotional support luggage? Stick around. This story still has one paw in the freezer and the other on a packing label. Every great story ends with barbecue, a live band, and a dog wearing a sheriff's badge. The old rec center parking lot had never seen this much joy, or this much slow-cooked brisket. Biscuit, decked out in a junior deputy vest and sunglasses, greeted guests like a fuzzy politician on a re-election tour. Thompson, now the self-elected community liaison because no one else wanted the gig, unveiled his first official act, replacing every "No Pets Allowed" sign with new ones that read, "Dogs welcome, humans tolerated. HOA applications will be burned." People cheered. Someone popped a balloon. Biscuit peed on it, ceremoniously. Carlton stood near the lemonade table with his new wife, Trixie, his former chiropractor and now co-founder of a non-profit chicken rescue called Cluck and Let Cry. He looked 10 years younger and 5 tax fraud charges lighter. "We've got 22 chickens and 0 secrets," he told me proudly, like it was a motto for recovery. As for Lord Sprinkle, he was reportedly living in a no-kill witness relocation facility in Scottsdale with weekly tuna therapy. The ranch, officially exempt from HOA jurisdiction, was now listed as a historical and ecological preserve, thanks to Madeline's dusty deed, Biscuit's instincts, and several high-resolution videos of Eugenia being tackled. by her own reputation. Biscuit was presented with an honorary county deputy certificate during the festivities, complete with a gold star sticker and a chewable proclamation that said, "For distinguished sniffing, snoring, and snitching." He took it humbly, then proceeded to steal 2 hot dogs and a corner of Thompson's folding chair. The town mayor shook my hand and said, "You've done something remarkable here." I replied, "I just wanted to take pictures of birds. Now I'm the poster child for HOA resistance." We both laughed. Biscuit farted in celebration. Several balloons deflated in solidarity. But just when I thought the chapter had closed, the mailman dropped something at my doorstep that made Biscuit growl and Thompson do a slow, dramatic spit take with his root beer. It was a manila envelope, no return address. Inside, a crayon drawing of Biscuit with devil horns and dollar signs in his eyes. Below it, scrawled in all caps, Sharpie, "You may have won the ranch, but I'll win the sequel." Signed, E.K. I stared at it for a long minute before taping it to the fridge, under a magnet shaped like a squirrel. "Looks like Eugenia's found time for fan mail," I muttered. Biscuit sneezed on it and walked away, unimpressed. Looking back, I didn't win because I barked louder. I won because I documented the bark, matched it with a receipt, and uploaded it to 3 clouds and a flash drive taped under the lawnmower. That's what saved us. In a world where power often hides behind fake bylaws and louder voices, this story proved one thing loud and clear: the truth has better stamina than a lie in heels. So, what do we walk away with, folks? Justice isn't loud, it's patient. Revenge is funny when it's righteous. And you should never underestimate a widow, a Labrador, or a retired substitute teacher with a projector. If this story gave you a laugh, a lesson, or just a reason to believe in poetic justice again, drop a comment below and let us know your favorite moment. Would you trust Biscuit to sniff out fraud in your neighborhood? Should he run for mayor or host a cooking show? Like this video if you believe that HOA drama deserves a roast and not a retreat. Subscribe so you don't miss what happens when Eugenia writes back from prison with part 2. And remember, in the HOA of life, be the neighbor who brings cookies, not subpoenas. See y'all next time. And give your dog a treat from Biscuit.